Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here to give you guys my Fear the Walking Dead Season 3, Episode 4 review, and this episode is called 100. Now, originally, when I saw the title of this episode, I thought it was the 100th episode of Fear the Walking Dead, but then I started thinking, there's no way that can be possible because the first season was only 6 episodes, and the second season was 16. There's only been 3 episodes in this season or so far. So if you add that up, that all adds up to 25 episodes. So I was kind of starting to think, this is strange. Why is this episode called 100? Well, we would find out at the end of the episode why this episode is called 100. So I'm going to start off by talking about this episode. But first, let me say this episode aired, at least from what it says right here, on June 18th, 2017. Um, and I got to say, this episode I thought was great. I really enjoyed this episode, and I'm just going to start off by talking about it. So, this episode pretty much focused just mainly on Daniel, which I thought was nice because we hadn't really seen much of him in season 2, since the season 2 mid-season finale. What I thought was nice about this was the fact that the Fear the Walking Dead really hasn't focused on one character really all that much since the series really started. They only really did it one time, and that was in the mid-season premiere. But I kind of thought that it made this episode kind of feel different than all the other episodes. And I could talk about maybe is if whether whether or not this episode was worthy of its own episode, but I think it was because it kind of showed us the back story around Daniel, and I'm not really going to talk about whether it should have been or not. I'm going to start off by reviewing the episode. So the episode starts off, and I'm just going to talk about the episode scene by scene since it kind of was focused around one storyline. Um, so the episode starts off with Daniel leaving Tawana. We find out that he survived um, the fire, which we already know, but it actually shows him leaving. And Daniel was just badly burned around the leg, pretty much. And Daniel sees a pack of the infected, and the infected go to attack Daniel. Well, actually, Daniel hides from them at first, and then one of them is able to smell Daniel, so Daniel ends up running away from him, and he's also very dehydrated too. So he hasn't drank any water probably since you know since the since the mid season finale. So he tries to crawl underneath the car to get away from the infected, but the infected pulls out his badly burned leg and tries to pull him out. But then a dog barks at the infected, and the infected chases after the dog instead. And then the episode went to like its theme song, or its logo. And when it comes back, Daniel's still hiding underneath the car, and then somebody comes up and kills the infected and says like a little prayer beforehand. And this person actually has a unique way of killing the infected. He takes a nail and uses a hammer to drive it right into the infected's head, which I thought was a unique way to kill it. Um, and this person goes to pull Daniel out of the car, thinking it's one of the infected, but Daniel reveals that he's alive, and we find we find out that this person's name, and I have it written down, is Efrain Morales. And he's like I don't know if he's the leader, but we find out that he's a member of a band of refugees, and um he ends up helping Daniel. Says that he looks really badly burnt, and Daniel asks him for water, and a friend says that he has water, but he has to walk. They have to walk to get it, so they end up walking to get it. They walk towards this fountain that releases water within at a certain time. And when it releases water, Daniel starts to drink it. And Daniel asks where this water comes from, and Fran says that it's an act of God. But we find out more about that later. I also want to make sure to mention that this is like the first Fear the Walking Dead episode to mainly be filmed in Spanish because they're in Mexico, so mostly people speak Spanish there. and I thought that was actually kind of unique, um, just because of the fact that um, Dan- um, we really hadn't seen that before. And I recently just watched a foreign film in my film and society class from that was in um, well, it wasn't in Spanish, but that was pretty much foreign. And I kind of like watching that stuff a little bit. It was like the first time I had, because it really makes you pay attention to the dialogue and stuff like that. Just because if you miss one word, you could miss something that you're worried that it's going to make you miss something really important. So I thought that was interesting. But Daniel needs help getting his wound treated from his leg. So um, Ifran, sorry, takes him in his bike, um, and he's about to get attacked by a ton of the infected. So they go into an alleyway, um, and they meet up with a band of refugees. And Daniel falls out of his bike, and he's about to scream, but these pack of like what looks like thugs, um, in their truck, um, have guns like they're gonna kill somebody. So Daniel has to be quiet so they don't hear him. More on that later. And then Daniel ends up passing out because of the pain in his leg. And when he comes to, the bandits have taken him to his house, and um, Daniel ends up. So what ends up happening is Daniel has voices that go on in his head that just like in the mid-season finale of season 2, where he questions whether or not his daughter's alive. We'll get into that later. And um, they go to treat Daniel's leg, but they realize they have to peel off the dead skin from that's badly burned. So they end up doing that, and Daniel can't scream because it's going to attract the affected. So they have to hold his mouth shut. So I kind of like that scene a lot. And then Daniel and Efran are talking by themselves, and Efran hammers another nail into the head of one of the infected, and Daniel asks if a friend used to be a priest, but he says that he used to be many things. And they end up taking shelter for the night. And Daniel offers to give a friend a professional haircut. And this is kind of when we got into the background story of Daniel. Daniel reveals everything that happened in the mid-season finale, how he's not a good person, and he tried to get away from El Salvador, to so that way his daughter would live a nice, happy life, and she would never have to know about his past. But then the apocalypse happened, and um, yeah, the apocalypse pretty much happened. And when he burned down the farm, he thinks that he burned his daughter alive. Um, and um, then Efran says that um, that you may have been a bad man, but now nobody's here to judge you, and that's the good news. But then he says the bad news. And Efran pretty much says that he knows the fact that Daniel's just going to leave him when he least expected. So this kind of led to this conversation. But I really enjoyed this conversation. It gave us more of a background into Daniel, and I really enjoyed it. And then Daniel goes to leave Efran, but then he gets attacked by the infected. He ends up killing it with his crutch. Um, but then um, he ends up passing out, and he was by a river, and the river flow, I guess, just takes him. And we meet this two group of people, Lola, and I forget the other guy's name, but I guess his name was Piapolo or something. But it's two guys that work clearing out the pipes of the infected, and Daniel ends up popping out one of them, and it ends up scaling him. And these two guys realize that um, take that they can't sneak Daniel out because they'll think that they snuck him in, so they don't really know what to do with Daniel. And then JC, who was with the bandits, you know, helps out Daniel. She gets him a job as a janitor, and the security guard for this place um, tries to see if they can talk to Dante about it, and um, JC says no. I know what I'm doing here. I'll do my job. You do your job. Because we find out that she actually pumps the water um, from the community. And then and then they reveal what this community is. We find out that it's I forget the name of the place, but it's the Gonzales Dam, and the reason why people are thirsty, um, is because they have to get the dam from Dante, who runs the thing, and he has like a very strict price about how to do it. You guys know what I'm talking about from the last episode, and um, then Daniel's working as a janitor, and um, Daniel, um, asks if this is really worth the life living. But then Lola says that either we live doing this type of stuff, or we live thirsting for water. And then Daniel starts to eat. Um, while Daniel's eating his meal, Dante ends up walking over, and the security guard walks with him, and everybody's supposed to stand for him, but Daniel doesn't stand. And the security guard confronts Daniel about this, and Daniel says he didn't realize he was supposed to stand. So the security guard goes to attack Daniel. Daniel stabs him with his fork, and then the security guard pulls out his gun and aims it at Daniel. And Dante realizes that this goes down, and Dante asks what his name is and everything, and when he realizes who he is, he realizes that it's Sergeant Daniel, who we find out was part of the Civil War with the who would kill the communists and stuff. And he finds this out because he pulls down his mouth and reveals it has like a tattoo of SC on it. Um, and when he finds out who he is, he offers Daniel a job at the dam as part of his part of his um, military expert, part of his military and stuff like that. One of Dante's operatives. But then what ends up happening next? So Daniel at first refuses. He just wants a car to go and find his daughter, but Dante convinces him to do so, and they reveal that there's been some bandits stealing their water, and this ties in because we find out that it was where that fountain of water was coming from was from the dam. So Daniel pretty much betrays a friend and reveals that it was him that was stealing the water. And JC gets pissed about this, and Daniel says he did it as a favor because they were going to find out who did it anyways, and they would have killed them then. And JC gets pissed because a friend saved Daniel's life, and he just pretty much turned his back on him. So JC is not happy about this, and then Daniel's outside the community of the dam, and it shows the whole scene where Strand showed up and was held down and stuff like that. And then it shows the ending scene of season 3 with Strand and Daniel. And Daniel's asking about Ophelia, and Strand pretty reveals that Ophelia got out alive and they left, and they reveals that they found their way to the hotel, but he lies saying that Ophelia's out there waiting for him. So he wants Daniel to let him out and to go find her, but Daniel realizes that he's lying and says that he can rot in hell because this is where you're meant to live. And then Strand says that this is not the type of person you are. You're Ophelia's father. And if Daniel says, my daughter's dead and her father's dead as well. And I kind of liked it because it was very symbolic. And then Dante calls in Daniel, and pretty much they're going to torture a friend until he tells him who's been supplying the water. So Daniel gives him one chance to tell him who he is, or we'll kill them and kill you. Or if you don't confess, I would slowly kill you. And a friend pretty much doesn't confess. So Daniel lays into him with rights and left hands and busts a friend open, and he still won't tell him. So then Daniel has no choice. He goes to execute him with like a pickaxe, but JC stops this and pretty much confesses that they did it. So Daniel's about so Dante's about to push them off the ledge of the dam, pretty much. and into the infected pit, and he does it to one of them. And then when it's time for JC to do it, he has Daniel do it. And I kind of like this because this made Daniel have to think about whether or not he was going to do it. And he actually thought he was going to do it because Daniel was this new person. But um, that's not what happens. They end up killing. Daniel ends up saving Fran and JC, and ends up killing um, all of Dante's men and everything, and Dante himself. And Daniel gets down on his knees and offers JC a chance to kill him, but you know, um, but um, he offers um, yeah, he offers. So Lola pretty much gets the place, and he offers for um. Oh wait, was that Lola? I might have gotten the names wrong. Hold on, I'm just reading this real quick. Oh, I'm sorry. It was Lola that yeah, that was it. So everything that I said about JC was actually Lola. I thought it was my bad, but it was Lola all that time. I messed up the names. So so Daniel hands over the dam to Lola, and Lola has a chance to kill Daniel, but she chooses to forgive him instead, and that was the end of the episode. But I still really thought this was a great episode. I thought it did a really good job of getting into like the character of Daniel, where it looked like he was gonna go back to his old ways, but he didn't. He actually ended up doing the right thing in the end, and you actually got like a satisfying ending um about on this, so I liked it. Um, and I really liked it too because the episode's called 100 because it reveals that Daniel killed 100 people. Because when Fran and Daniel were talking, he said that he killed 96 people. But we find out that but at the end of the episode, in this scene, he killed 4 more, which means he killed 100 people. So I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was great. I thought it really did a good job of getting into the character of Daniel. And just Daniel being back, I think is just awesome. And I thought it was a great episode. Um, so that's pretty much the end of this review. Leave your thoughts and comments of what you guys thought of this episode. And make sure you guys share this video so people will watch it. And also like the video if you want. And then make sure you guys subscribe to this channel for more content and click on the bell. So that way every time I upload a video, you guys will get the notifications for it. Make sure you guys do the same thing for my CM brothers. And that's the only other channel I have. So that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.